All right, welcome to our Penn State Berks LionSide Chat. We will get started in just a minute. There's some instructions on the screen here. If you want to check your audio, we will be starting in just a minute. All right, welcome to Penn State Berks LionSide Chats. Come on in and welcome to our campus. We are glad that you were able to join us today. My name is Ryan Hassler. I'm one of the 3 LionSide Chat moderators working alongside Don Pfeiffer-Reitz and Sonia De La Cueto. Just real quickly before we get started, we want to share that you should feel free to pose any of your questions using the Q&A feature here of our webinar today. We will not be using the chat feature or the raise hand feature, but we will be facilitating a Q&A session with our presenters and our guests today once the presentation concludes. So please do feel free to post your questions in the Q&A. Today's chat is the 4th part, actually. Can't believe the summer is coming to an end soon, but it is the 4th part of our 6-part summer series on the Penn State values. So today's value, of course, is respect. I just want to start singing R-E-S-P-E-C-T when I hear that. But today's value is talking about respect, and I'm excited to introduce Ms. Sharon Pitterson-Ogaldez, who will be coordinating the chat. Sharon is the coordinator of the Diversity International Programs here at Penn State Berks, chairs our Diversity, Equity, Inclusion Committees, and has a wealth of knowledge and experience in so many different aspects of diversity, equity, respect, specifically with intercultural competence, strategic planning. So she's had, received many awards, can't list them all here, but we're grateful for her attendance here today and for helping to pull this chat together. Just as a side note, she sewed her own wedding dress. So I think that was an awesome fun fact. So Sharon, I know you're joined here by one's a current student and a Penn State Berks alumni. So I'll turn it over to you, and I think you can introduce them, but I do appreciate you being here to share with our audience about the Penn State value of respect. So welcome.
Thank you, Ryan, and thank you for the opportunity to present on a topic that is really near and dear to my heart, that I get really excited about all the time. And thank you, Aimee and Zishan, for joining me in this conversation around the Penn State value of respect. And I will give you both the opportunity to introduce yourselves, your major's year of graduation or current, and also how you've been involved with my work and also other leadership roles on campus.
I can go first. So my name is Aimee Rodriguez-Ortiz. I graduated in 2019. While I was at Berks, I majored in communication and minored in political science. And while I was on campus, I worked under Ms. O as an international mentor, was part of a bunch of her diversity committees, was part of SGA, and a bunch of different student clubs. I know there's more, but I can't remember everything now, but that's just a little bit of what I did while I was on campus.
Hello, everyone. My name is Zishan Panchpai, and I'm a mechanical engineering major right now, and I'll be moving into my junior year coming this August. I did work with Ms. O last semester as an international mentor, and I'm also working with her during this summer as well, helping her plan out the international mentor and the mentees, planning out with that. I was also chair of special events for CAB, where we organized events on campus and got the performers and magicians and all those different things, and coordinated with Felicia for that as well.
Thank you very much. And now I will go into sharing my screen to do a presentation. And once I'm done with that part of it, then we'll go into a Q&A session to get the student perspective on this value. So I've titled this presentation, The Understated Value of Respect. Many people do not really realize how important respect is to day-to-day life and how it affects individuals positively or negatively. And so I hope that today I'll be able to communicate this to you so that you will have a higher respect for this value of respect. So you've seen the Penn State values before, but I'd like to bring them back. Integrity, discovery, respect, excellence, responsibility, and community. And I'm sure you've also heard from previous presenters that the values actually tie with each other and undergird each other. And I'd like to say that respect is the one that really holds all the others together. So let's take a closer look at respect. According to Penn State, we respect and honor the dignity of each person, embrace civil discourse, and foster a diverse and inclusive community. And as you've seen there, I've underlined some of the words and highlighted some in color, which I think it's important for us to pay attention to. Each person means every single human being, not just me, not just you, not just the people that we like or interact with, but every single person. And I'll do some definition according to Merriam-Webster dictionary. Respect is to consider worthy of high regard or high esteem. Inclusive is a sense of welcoming and belonging in a community. So it's how people feel that they belong, they're a part of. And this is one of the things that we really want to have every member of our campus experience, especially our students, when they come to Berks. Diverse is simply different types of people in a group. Now, pay attention to community. It's a body of persons or nations having a common history or common social, economic, and political interests. And I will go back up to the concept of a diverse and inclusive community, which I will talk about a little bit later. So, diverse and inclusive community. The reason why I pull this out is that on the surface, it does not seem possible that we can have a diverse and inclusive community. Because as you saw in the definition of diverse, it is different people having different values. And community is about people who are moving together with commonality, with history together. And when we're building diverse community, especially on college campuses, it is a difficult thing to do. And so what will it take for us to be able to achieve diverse, inclusive communities? First and foremost, intentionality. We have to be intentional that we want this to happen. This is the environment that we want to be a part of and we want to study in and we can succeed in. So we have to be curious about people who are different from us, different in their nationality, in their language, their spirituality, in their sexual orientation, gender, their thoughts, their ideas, their life experiences. All of that we have to be curious about. Who are these other people around me? Who are they who are in my classes? Who are my professors? And so on and so forth. And we have to make a commitment. We have to commit time to learning about diversity, about respect. And we have to take responsibility for our own learning about diversity, about different people, and about ourselves too, as individual diverse beings, having our own culture and identities and experience. We have to have that commitment, and then it is going to take work. Work to discover who we are as individuals within a cultural context, who we are as students, who we are in all the different ways in which we identify ourselves and how those intersect to form the unique you. And then the work of actually respecting people who are different from you, who will have different ways of doing life, which may be challenging sometimes to you because you don't understand why is it that they behave the way they do? Why do they think the way they do? Why do they have such ideas that are so different? And then we need to change. We need to change not necessarily our fundamental values. We usually have certain values that are really core to who we are, and we don't have to change those core values. But what we need to change is our understanding of the values of other people who are different from us. And I'm really glad that we're talking about values, because values are what really undergird the way that we believe and the behaviors that we display. And so the Penn State values is pushing us to find that commonality through the values, to behave, to act in certain ways. So values of respect has many faces, as I put it. It is not universal. So what is respectful in my culture is not necessarily respectful in another culture. And you can find the difference in respect through words, through body language, through knowledge, through business. I'll just give a quick example of each. For example, I am married to someone from a different country. In my country, which is Jamaica, if you call a female person the word gal, that is actually an insult. It means you're ready to have a fight. But in his country, when they say gal, it is a term of endearment. And so that is something I had to learn when I lived there, to adjust to it, because at first I would cringe and say, why is this person coming at me, calling me gal, And so those are some of the ways in which respect is different for different people in terms of body language. Here we have people say you need to give direct eye contact, which indicates that you're being honest, you're being upfront, and you're trustworthy. You have confidence. But in some cultures, giving direct eye contact to someone who is in a greater stature than your position than you, or is older than yourself, is actually very disrespectful. And so if you see this happening where someone is avoiding eye contact, you may think that they're being shifty, they're not being honest. And I've actually had experience where in schools, students would get punished by teachers and principals because they wouldn't give direct eye contact according to what their culture demands, but is the opposite of what the US would demand. So it can get us into trouble. And that's why we need to do the work to understand these differences. Also in like handshake, you go to an interview, they tell you you should give a firm handshake. Not so many handshake going on now during COVID time, but pre-COVID, that was a sign that you had confidence and that you would be probably the candidate that they should hire because you do that. However, in some cultures, if you do not give a firm handshake, especially if you're shaking the hand of people who are older than you are, because that is a sign of respect of youth flaunting their strength over the wisdom of the older people. And yet again, in some cultures, they would support their hand by holding the elbow to shake your hand and not necessarily give you a very firm handshake. And in terms of knowledge, this is something which comes up, for example, in the value of integrity, where we have academic integrity. And sometimes students from different cultures can be called in for academic integrity in their papers and their writings because they did not use the US method of citing and giving credit for the work that they used in their papers from someone else. That is because in those countries, knowledge is collectively owned, and so they don't have those rules around citation. And so when the students come here, they have to learn about how to do the citation according to the US ways. And professors need to learn and know that this is also the situation in those countries, so that their first move is not to punish those students, but instead to educate them. And this is something which I've done in the international student orientation that I have, where I asked the director of the Writing Center to come in and do a presentation for international students on how to properly cite works that they will be using in their papers. And in business, there are different ways of showing respect when people are doing business and how they conduct themselves in business. Sometimes to show respect that you intend to do business with someone, you will give them a gift, and they're supposed to accept that gift. And if they don't accept the gift, then chances are there will be no business done. But from our perspective here in the US, we may not accept that gift because we see it as being bribed to do business, pay for play, as they would say in politics. And so we need to understand the context of how respect is done across business as well. So let's look at what I call the shadow side of respect, which is actually disrespect. And it comes in different forms. I have some listed here: microaggression, bias, insults, discrimination, exclusion, war, and genocide. Who would think about genocide when you think about respect? But I'll tell you, it actually is a part of knowing this value. If we don't, then we can find ourselves in wars and genocide. So microaggressions are usually acts or words that we say to or about people that are derogatory, they're negative, stereotyping, and putting people down. And bias is really preferring or excluding certain people based on their identity and so on and so forth. And insults can be micro insults that you say, small insults. For example, somebody will say, "Oh, you're so smart for a Black girl." It seems like a compliment, but actually it's not. Because on the other side of it, the shadow side of that is saying that Black girls are not smart, generally speaking, but you're an exception, which actually is not true. Ridicule, jokes, put downs, these are all negative. And what they do is that they do not promote the inclusive communities that we want to have happen, because people feel discriminated against and they feel excluded. And research has shown that when people feel excluded, they get into the fight or flight syndrome. And it is the same thing as if somebody should give them a hard blow to the head that happens in the brain. Oxygen and glucose are diverted from the brain and go to the arms and the legs to prepare them to either fight or to flee. Think about yourself in a classroom as students, and you raised your hand, professor didn't call on you. Professor called on you, you gave your point, and some students chuckled, or the professor put your comment down or said something negative. It's actually going to make you feel excluded, and it's going to prepare you to fight or to flee. After that moment, your brain is shut down and you will not be able to learn after that unless it becomes corrected. And so this is the shadow side, that students in the classroom, based on the behaviors of faculty and their classmates, can be prevented from learning because of the lack of respect. The lack of respect and understanding diversity can also lead to war and lead to genocide. Just imagine that you're outside, you're at a summer cookout or picnic, and you have your food out, and of course ants and flies, they come around because they want some of it. And just imagine that a fly perched on your forehead and you were in the middle of taking a bite. You're not going to let go to hit the fly, but soon you're going to hit that fly if it doesn't move away and try to kill it and swat it. And what happens when we don't understand other people, their values, their way of life? We feel threatened by them because we don't understand. We become fearful. We become fearful that they will want to change our way of life. And so we try to get rid of them. We try to get rid of them by creating policies, by creating barriers. And if those don't work, we eventually end up with war and can end up with genocide. If you go back and look in history at the wars, at genocide that took place, you will find that some group was disrespected or another group felt threatened because they did not understand and could not bridge the difference in their cultures and their cultural values. So now let's look at the power of respect. First, we must seek to understand the differences that we bring and that others bring. And then we must interact with others with civility. We must respect. We must, instead of debating with others about their thoughts, about their beliefs, about who they are, instead we should enter into conversations of discussions and dialogue where we seek to understand. When we do this, we help to make people feel as if they matter and that they belong, rather than excluded. And when people feel that they matter and they belong, then they can actualize their potential that they have within them. Every person comes with potential within them. It doesn't matter who they are, what their education level is, what they possess. Every single person has value and has something to contribute to life. And so they can achieve their excellence, which leads to communal excellence. When we can be at our best and excellent and have our potential, we can then become innovative. We can discover, we can research, we can come up with new ideas, new solutions for problems that we are facing today. I'll just mention scientists from the country of Cameroon who solved a 70-year-old problem that scientists were working on in the immunology field for so long. And it has to do with the mathematical modeling of how viruses reproduce themselves and how you can interject in there with vaccines to create vaccines. And what that did was to allow for scientists to create vaccines at a much faster rate than in the past. And if you notice with the COVID vaccine, they were able to produce this vaccine at a super rapid pace. And some people distrust it because of that, but they don't know that scientists have unlocked this procedure that allows them to move more quickly than in the past. So when we have all of this together, we can now have diverse and inclusive community because now everyone is able to participate. And I found this as I was preparing my slide, the cycle of respect. And as you can see here, it says respect for others. How do you do this? You acknowledge their potential, that they have potential. I have friends who are presidents of university, who are presidents of organizations. You know, I've interacted with people who would be similar to your Secretary of State here, Secretary of Agriculture. I also have friends who never finished elementary school, never went to high school, never went to college. And they're valuable to me, every one of them, because they bring something different to my life and enrich my life in some way. Using their abilities well. One of the mistakes that we make when we don't respect others is that we do not incorporate their abilities. When you don't do that, you're missing out on innovations. You're missing out on what could be the answer that the world is looking for the problems we're facing. and creating meaning and purpose with people, making life have meaning and their work has meaning, letting people give of their best and fully recognizing people for their contributions. One of the ways in which we can disrespect people is when we take credit for the work that they did, when we plagiarize, when we don't acknowledge that they contributed to society and to that work. That is very, very disrespectful and demeaning for people. So let's close out this section by looking at the Penn State values at Berks. And I just want to share some of the things that I have done in my work and also some professors are doing to bring through the value of respect at Berks. So I chair the diversity committee, or DEI committee, we now call it, at Berks. And in our annual retreat, we do strategic planning for the upcoming year or years. And one of the things we realized in 2018 was that the number one thing that we need to do if we want to shift the culture at Penn State Berks is that everyone needs to know the 6 Penn State values and to practice them. And that is how we can find a sense of commonality amongst a diverse group of people who are at Berks. So we instituted the annual Penn State Values Poetry Contest for students so that students can reflect on the values and write poems, their original poems, incorporating all 6 values. And each class gets 3 prizes, first, second, and third place, which is a gift card to the bookstore in different monetary amounts. The other thing was to introduce, which I suggested that we introduce the first year convocation. We're now entering into the 3rd year of having the first year convocation at Penn State Berks. And my reason for the convocation is to introduce students to the academic environment by having faculty come out in their regalia and having that pomp and circumstance, which is similar to graduation, but also is to introduce them to the Penn State values during this convocation ceremony. And this year, it is being focused on the value of community. So the keynote speaker will speak about community at Penn State Berks. Another one is the Berks Community Connection series on different cultures, whether it is, the culture of dress, food, and so on, or religious or gender. We've covered different aspects of culture during this series. And it is to give value to the people who are in our community who belong to these different cultures and religions and gender identity and so on. Another one that I brought here was the Origins of Culture workshop, which I used to volunteer to do for first-year students. And it has gained so much traction and value that it has now become the official first-year diversity, equity, and inclusion workshop for all first-year seminar students. And then the Faculty Lunch and Learn certificate, which they get to learn about, and we've gone through learning about how different non-English names are pronounced, the differences between white, African-American, Latinx, and international students, Asian American students, and how to really serve these students within the classroom and outside. We have the Unity Day program, which really demonstrate how we value the diverse members of our community. We celebrate Heritage Months, LGBTQA months, and also religious celebrations. And you can take courses from different professors on gender, race, culture, cross-cultural communication, and so on at Berks. So these are some of the ways in which we help you to learn about and to value others and to demonstrate the value of respect at Penn State Berks. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen now, and I am going to shift to having the students give their perspective on this value, current and former student, their perspective. So I'll ask some questions and you can answer them. So I'm going to say, Aimee and Zishan, can you talk about how does this value of respect apply to Penn State students in the classrooms, during internships, and in student organizations?
So I think the value of respect is super important, especially like at Penn State. I think Penn State has a super like diverse population, especially like in its students, its faculty. So like you'll definitely meet someone different than yourself, no matter if it's in the classroom, in the cafeteria, in an internship. So I think it's important to learn to be able to be open-minded and be like mindful of like differences between you and someone else. Because like that'll just like foster better relationships for you between you and that person, and it'll just make the experience in the classroom a lot better. The experience outside of the classroom a lot better. You'll find yourself that you enjoy your internships better if you're open to just learning from someone different than you, and you'll be able to learn a lot more. And I think like at the end of the day, you'll find that you'll befriend people or just like make connections with people you never thought you would. And you'll learn things that like you won't really learn in the textbook, or you won't really learn from Google or from YouTube. So I think that's how the value of respect kind of relates to that.
Thank you.
Yes, I totally agree with what she just said. Value of respect is very important in Penn State. And the best part is that the professors and the faculty do understand this, and they know that this is a diverse community, and there are people from different countries, different states, and they act accordingly. Like my first year here was a little bit difficult as well, because as Ms. O just explained, all those things, that difference in classroom, like talking to the professors or like plagiarism or anything, I had to go through all of that. My first English class, yes, I basically I plagiarized, and instead of actually calling me out, the professor actually respected me, and he knew what I had gone through. So he called me out separately, and he told me, you know what, this is how it's supposed to be, and I would like it this way, and this is like a violation and all that. Instead of actually, he could have just given me a negative grade for it, but instead of that, he actually explained me what I did wrong, and he actually explained like what I should do going forward from that. They're ready to teach. The professors, if you respect them enough, they'll be ready to help you anywhere, everywhere outside the classroom as well. I think, yes, they are very mindful of all that. And if you just respect them enough, you have a greater chance of learning more things over here at Penn State.
Thank you so much. So I'd like to ask you to share a time when you observed an incident when the value of respect was required and the situation ended either negatively or positively, but do not use the names of those who were involved. And if you don't have an example, it's fine. We can move on after that, but I'd like to give you that opportunity to share that. And I know Z, you just shared one with your professor.
I can share one from like the perspective of like being an alumni and like being in the working world, as opposed to like being in the classroom on campus. I think I graduated 2 years ago, so I'm working full-time now. And then working during COVID, I think was very interesting, because I think the borderlines between like what's expected is very different than when you're in office. And I was working on a team where most of the people were pretty young, so it was not expected that people have like families or kids or something. And one of our meetings was scheduled at 9 a.m. It was a weekly meeting that we all had to attend to. It was set by a director, but there was one member of our team that would consistently come into these meetings late by like either 10, 15 minutes. And it was like a very consistent thing. And no one really stopped to ask why. They just assumed that that person was sleeping in, or they were just coming late just because they were lazy. Well, I kind of took initiative, because I saw that, okay, this is consistent. It's probably, something bigger than just them wanting to sleep in. So I chatted them separately, and I asked like, oh, is there like a reason why you're coming in late to these meetings? And they explained to me that they actually have a kid, and they have to drop that kid off to like daycare, or like find someone to kind of take care of the kid, because of COVID, it was a lot, stricter restrictions. So they have to wait for a family member to come pick up their kid, or like settle their kid so they won't make so much noise during our meetings. So I brought that up in one of our meetings, the next meeting, to the director, and we realized that not everyone, just because they're young, doesn't live under conditions where they live alone. There might be people who live with kids or have like other conditions. So we were able to kind of come to an agreement to shift the meetings to a later time. And I think this kind of shows respect because like we took the time to actually get to know this person and be mindful of their situations. I think, like I said, because of COVID, I think restrictions and lines kind of get blurred. So instead of just expecting people to wake up, log onto your computer, even if you're at home, there's still like barriers to that. So I think we were able to, after that, foster a more communicative, a more communicative group and culture within our team to be able to communicate and come to better terms in alignment. But I think that's an example.
Thank you. And that's a really great example that you have given because people have different constraints around how they utilize time and responsibilities that they have. And, you know, it makes me think about the value of family, that people value family and they will put family before work. They will attend to family first and then work. And this was an example of that. It's not that work was not valuable to the person, but they just had to have that priority. Yet they were trying to respect work by not having distractions while they were in the work meeting. And so, you know, I really commend you for taking the initiative to talk with the person to figure this out and help your team in understanding this. Great job, great job. Z, do you have anything you want to share with that? Or if not, I can move on to the next question.
I can just share a small incident where it's about the clubs that I've worked for. So as I said, I work for CAB as a special chair of events manager. And for that, the ideas, I think we just meet separately from the meetings that we already have, like as a group, all the people like who come to the club meetings, we just meet separately and like we just share ideas. Even though the board takes the final decision, we just like to meet with the students, like talk to them, and they have different ideas. And now it's become a tradition that whenever we have all these events, we have a separate meeting on our times where we can talk to each other and like we respect the ideas what come through them, and we try to have those ideas right now on campus, and so they can enjoy more and what they can see on campus.
Yeah, thanks. And that's a great idea of showing that, you know, people's ideas matter and that you're giving them the opportunity to share what they would like and then honoring them by actually implementing those ideas. Thank you. Very great examples, both of you. So now my next question is, how does respect help us to foster an inclusive community with diverse members?
I think I kind of alluded to this during my first answer, but I think I can specifically speak to my time at Berks. I think respect helps like foster like an inclusive community because when I was at Berks, I worked a lot with like a bunch of different international students who were from very different countries from where I'm from. I'm from Puerto Rico, so I'm Latina. A lot of the international students that were coming in when I was there were from China or from India. So it's very different communication forms. So I took the time to kind of sit down and be patient. And I asked a lot about their language, their culture. I even tried to learn some of their languages. So I tried to learn like Chinese or Hindi or all these different languages. And I think that showed like a sign of respect because they saw that I was willing to learn, and they were just more willing to share just because they saw that I was more open-minded and I wasn't going to laugh at how they pronounce certain things or I wasn't going to laugh at their accent or things like that. So I think just like being open and just taking the time to learn, genuinely learn about someone else, and then also share about yourself can really help foster like a pretty diverse community.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you. Wonderful.
Yeah, I totally agree. And like when I came over here, like as an the international orientation was the biggest part for me because that's where I literally met all my friends and all the people that I'm living through for the next 2 of the years. Some of my friends are like from different countries, like actually most of them are from different countries, and it's at first like when you just start talking to them, it feels nice because everyone's new, nobody knows each other. But if you respect each other enough to like ask some questions about how they do over there back home, how it is for them and what they have done, it's just fascinating to know like what people have gone through, and like you just get to learn so much about their culture, and they are also genuinely interested in learning about you as well. And like this literally helped me like for next semester, I'm going to stay off campus and all the 4 people I'm living with are of different countries. It just showed like, just meet different people throughout that.
Yeah, amazing, amazing. You know, this makes me think about my former job where I was in charge of apartments and family housing for my university. And here you had students from different countries there. And some of the students from certain international countries would get charged a lot of money when they move out for cleaning, mainly for cleaning. And they would complain. And so I started investigating and saying, you know, how can I fix this problem? And so fortunately, where I live, they had some video series in the public library about a life in the day of a student from different countries. So I found all the ones for the countries that I had students from, and I watched all of them and took note of their day-to-day lives, and particularly meal preparation, because most of it was in the kitchen, and noticed some differences. And then I came back and spoke to the maintenance staff, to the custodial staff, to my community building staff, similar to RAs, and said, this is what is different. And this is why they may ask for certain things that we would not normally provide to a US student. And so I changed the policies, I changed and introduced them to cleaning products, and took them to show them what products to buy and what to do and how to really, and the maintenance, all the staff was involved in this education for them. Prices went down. When I got there, the percentage of diversity between international and multicultural US student was like 10%. When I left that job, it was 50%, because I took the time to figure out who they were and how to tailor the service to match their cultures and their needs. And so that is the positive side of when you respect. Thank you so much. I know we may be running a little short, and I think we may have time for the last question. So this is my last question to you. What advice would you give to first-year students as they embark on their academic journey at Penn State Berks?
I would say just some advice for like first-year students first embarking on their academic journey. I would say just like soak everything in, just like enjoy everything, because right now you have like access to a bunch of different experiences, a bunch of different people for free or for a very low price, because the school, Penn State Berks, or just Penn State in general, sets up a lot of opportunities for their students to be able to experience these things. So I would say soak them up, because you won't have these opportunities for free or for just as well structured outside of university. And I would also say just kind of enjoy the experience in the classroom and being like around all the people. Whether like I had like international domestic friends while I was at Penn State Berks, but like now in the working world, all my friends are a bunch of different cities, different countries. So it's very hard to like get together and just like enjoy time together like I was on campus. So I would say just enjoy all the people, enjoy your professors. And I would even echo that even stronger now after COVID. We know what it feels like to be in a world where we're all isolated or we can't be together. So now as like things are starting to get back to somewhat normalcy, I would say really take the time to just enjoy and connect with people genuinely, and just just enjoy your time.
Thank you.
Yeah, all I would like to say is just be open, and you know what, like, go ahead. If you want to talk to someone, just go ahead and ask them some questions, just say hello, like, just simple as that. You don't have to even do anything about that. You just have like a little bit of courage, like you have to just go and talk to some people, because they'll be open to make new friends, to talk to different people. Just somebody has to like just go up to them and just say hello, and like you'll be fascinated. Like, people are very nice over here, and just be open for new things, like anything, to try different things with different people. It's just go to different events or anything like that. Just have a good time, and it should not be that difficult. You're gonna have a good time out here at Penn State Berks.
Thank you so much. This is really great, and I don't think that anywhere else in your life will you have the opportunity, as Aimee has said, to have such a diverse group of people that you're interacting with and learning. And I'll give you a little secret. For those of you, I'm pretty sure most of you who are here are from the US, but for those also who are not from the US, I'll give you a secret. The US students are really curious and they want to learn and interact with international students and vice versa. But you know what happens? Each side is afraid that they will make mistakes, they will say the wrong thing, and so they don't cross that bridge. Do it anyway. You make a mistake, you're going to make mistake. You know, as much as I know about diversity, I still make mistakes, but you learn from them and you apologize quickly when you realize that you have made a mistake, and you know, you can move forward, and together we can build this wonderful, diverse and inclusive Penn State Berks that we have in our dreams and our goals and our plans for our campus. Thank you for being here today, and we're now open for your questions to us.
Thank you, Sharon. Thank you to both of our guests as well. Just remind you, if there's any questions here from the audience, please feel free to throw those into the Q&A session. I think I'll start off. I have just to piggyback a little bit on what we just talked about. Can either of you maybe, or all three of you maybe, comment a little bit on, you know, in the definition of respect from our value, Penn State, we have this word, embrace civil discourse. So how do we, you know, especially, I mean, you know, in this time where the popular media, one might argue, you know, who pits each other, you know, different sides against different, you know, folks, and you know, the things that we have seen in our country here in the United States and across the world over the last, you know, 2, 3, 4 years. How do we navigate it, and what are best practices for embracing that civil discourse on our campus community here at Penn State Berks?
Mm-hmm. I could start off by saying, in the past 3 years, I have formed a group of students, got a group of students who are interested in doing work around diversity together. And the first year they did a symposium celebrating Berks. And the second year they were going to do one that was strictly focused on diversity, but the pandemic. Everything was planned and ready, but we had to close down. And this past year, what I did for that group of students, and they actually held some a forum, 2 different forums they participated in, was I did some training for them in public dialogue facilitation. And the best practice is not to get into a debate, not to get into a shaming and blaming and calling out. It is to actually have dialogue where you are listening to learn, to understand. When you can understand where the other person is coming from and honor them for that, even though you may not believe it, you may not change your mind to it, but if you can honor them for why they believe what they believe, then that will set the stage for them to be open to hear and listen to you. And together you can have that negotiation of how we will then create something that will work for both sides.
Yeah, I guess to piggyback off of what Ms. O was saying, while I was on campus, I was there during some election seasons. As I was going to know with politics, it's always like pretty split. And I think like, you know, one side will feel a certain way, another side will feel another way. I think during those times, if you're on campus and things like that, like arise, I think like just being open about wanting to have these discussions and just like going to your professors or just going to like faculty or leaders on campus and saying, I want to talk about this. I want to have a guided discussion. They have the resources available and the people available to be able to guide these discussions, to be able to facilitate these conversations between both ends, so both sides can feel listened to and feel valued, because I think during times of like high tension like that, it's important to have these discussions and to want to feel listened. And Penn State and especially Penn State Berks has like the resources to do so. So I would say definitely tap into that. And yeah.
Great. Let me then ask maybe from the other endpoint in terms of like the academic side. And again, audience, if there's any questions, feel free to put some Q&A in here. But this question is more about like maybe respect in the classroom. So I think we hinted at a few of those things. So Yashan, maybe I'll throw this to you since you're the current student. But you know, I was a high school teacher before I became a professor at Penn State. And in the high school setting, at least here in the United States, teachers are kind of, looked at as the person who's in charge maybe. And I try not to run my classroom like that at the academic level, at the college level, because my students often teach me lots of things, and we have a shared goal. And I say this to some of my students, like, sometimes I ask questions I don't know the answer to, and they're like, "What? You don't know the answer to that?" I'm like, "Yeah, like, this is a shared community, right? We're trying to all sort of better our knowledge of whatever the academic task is at hand." So in the college setting, in the classroom, for like freshmen that are coming in, or first year students, sorry, that are coming in to Penn State Berks, what does that dynamic look like in terms of respect from the faculty and staff versus the students? Do you have to, dare I even say, earn respect? Do you agree with that? How do you show respect? How do you gain respect? What's that dynamic look like from the academic side?
I think it's pretty good. Like over here, the faculty and the staff, and as I said, like they know that the students are coming from different communities, different places, so they do try to like do their best in like foster community, like classrooms, like which is I think encouraged for like asking questions and everything around that. And in a way, I would say earn respect is like you just have to like show respect to the professor, that what he's teaching and what he's in doing in classroom, and just respect him, that what you're doing is important for me to learn enough that I come here to pay attention in your class, instead of like distracting or like doing anything that's not supposed to be there in the classroom, or like just be there. Just showing there, like just coming up to the classroom is, I think the professors take that as a respect as well, in some certain ways you can say, because they just feel like, oh, you're coming here to learn, and you're coming over all the way over here to learn from me, and like that's pretty much it. That the professors take that as a sign of respect, and they will go out lengths like to teach you. And one of my professors, he literally like learned, like he had another professor who spoke Hindi, so he learned a word to just say hello to me in Hindi. As to just when I came into classroom, and I was like, wait, you know this? And like, no, I just asked from other professor, that's all I can speak. And like small things like that, it doesn't even have to be big, what, just small things like that. But their professors try their best to like include everyone and feel that they are welcomed over here. And I think that's pretty much it. That was enough for me. Like, what, yes, they respect me enough to even go to learn a different language, even just to say hello, doesn't matter what. That was good enough for me.
And I had same comment or same question. What was your experience in the classroom at Penn State Berks in terms of the respect from both ends, from the student and the faculty perspective?
Yeah, I think I had a very similar experience to Shasan. Just like faculty were very like open and just very kind. I think I can speak from a perspective. I was very I still am a very timid and shy person. I didn't really talk a lot, so a lot of my professors kind of very helped me foster like environments where I felt more comfortable talking in the classroom. They would help me improve my speaking skills so I can speak better when I had to give presentations. In college, you can't really get away from like doing presentations or like group work. So I think like professors were just very nurturing and really tried to help me grow just as like an individual and like as their student. So I think I really valued that. And I think that was like a lot of respect towards me, because they saw I kind of struggled and I was very shy, and they were able to kind of like help foster like environments so I can feel more empowered or feel more confident to be able to do better in the classroom. So yeah, very similar sentiments to what Shasan was saying.
Awesome.
Great, yeah, awesome. That's awesome to hear. I guess we got a couple minutes here, but can we just kind of end maybe sort of like just parting words when you think about respect in either your personal, professional life now that you're out in the working force, or while you're still in the classroom? Can you just give us like a summary? I mean, we got this Penn State shared value. Let me read it one more time. We respect and honor the dignity of each person, embrace civil discourse, and foster a diverse and inclusive community. But just personally, like just real briefly, like respect, when you hear that, what comes to your mind? What do you try to practice? How does this look in your life? Sharon, maybe I'll throw it to you first, just real quickly. That word respect, like I said, I want to start singing, but then I really start to think about what the meaning means. But what comes to mind when we just hear about this value of respect?
For me, what comes to mind when I hear about respect is diversity, human dignity, and wanting the best for every other person, no matter who they are, and to give them their own agency. Except for systemic barriers opportunities, more people who are less fortunate or less achieved or have less possessions could have been the ones who were the directors, the ministers, the leaders, and so on. And so I value every single person and try to understand from their perspective. That's what I do.
Great. And then our other two guests.
It's very hard to follow up after that, but I think when I think about respect, I think of just like, I don't know, making other people feel seen or feel heard. Yeah, and just like genuinely caring about other people. That's what I think about respect. Very, very short, but yeah.
Perfect. Yep. And
Yeah.
Sean.
As well, like just like their opinions matter as well, like what they think as maybe not be aligned with you, but it's just a different way of thinking. It's not wrong, there is nothing wrong in it, it's just a different way of looking at things. I think if you just start listening and just looking from their perspective, yes, that's what it means to me. Like it's, you just, yeah, better relationship, better friendship, everything.
Great. Yeah, I mean, all three answers very similar, but very, very powerful. So yeah, I thank you. Let me just pull up the slide here. Thank you to all three of our panelists today for chatting with us about this fourth value of respect. A special thank you to everybody else here who has joined us. As you do click out of our webinar, we will have a quick survey if you don't mind giving us a little bit of feedback about what you thought about today's session, or even give us suggestions for things you might want to see on the LionSide Chat platform in the future. We would appreciate that. You are always encouraged to reach out to us. There's our contact information, or check out our website. We do have two more chats scheduled for the summer / beginning of the semester. We have two values yet to go. So on the 5th of August, we will be talking about excellence here at Penn State Berks. And then we actually will conclude this summer series with, as we heard here today, the first year student convocation we will have on our LionSide Chat network here. And that will be where we focus on this idea of community and the concept of who we are here as a Penn State community. So be sure to come back, folks, meet with our faculty, staff, and students to learn more about all of these exciting opportunities and experiences, and learn more about our values here at Penn State Berks. Stay safe and beyond, or stay safe, Berks and beyond. Signing off until next time. This has been the LionSide Chats Network, and thank you again to all three of our presenters for taking your time today. Thank you. Take care.
Bye.